All right, hey, we did it. Okay, hey, welcome everybody to the comic book preview stream. As you can see next to me is not Celeste, despite what the text might say on your screen. This is our good friend Abby.
Hello.
That Celeste and I actually talk about her a lot on the
Oops.
stream. You would know that if you watched the
Hey,
stream.
I had school.
That's
I have an
okay. We
excuse.
forgive you. But yeah, so Celeste isn't here today, but thankfully we got Abby here to fill in, and we are just excited to talk about some new comics that are coming out. So you probably don't know this again since you don't watch the stream, but I always like to start the episode out by taking a look at some facsimiles that are coming out
Oh boy.
because there is no shortage of facsimiles. I'm almost getting bored of talking about this, but Marvel Secret Wars, the original series has come out. I'm really only mentioning it just as a reminder to people that might be interested in it. It's kind of fascinating to read this for the first time because I was as a big Marvel reader, I actually never really read Secret Wars. I just wasn't that interested in it. But it's neat to read it for the first time, even though I don't think it's actually that good.
And it's interesting because there's a facsimile version of the Secret Wars out, and then the normal main series that's out as well.
Yeah, they're like new Secret Wars book, which because that's Marvel's thing is they just reuse titles over and over and over again. So there's just like a million different Secret Wars books. But this one is the original from 1984, literally 40 years ago. But even older than that is the facsimile that I'm the most interested in. This is Mad #1. Now, Abby, I don't know if it's almost kind of old at this point, but there used to be a very popular magazine called Mad Magazine.
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it gets referenced a lot. It is still in production today, in fact.
I think their last one was a Taylor Swift and Travis Scott issue.
Yes, yeah, they did the cover, the famous covers with Alfred E. Newman is the name of the character. But before it was Mad Magazine, it was a comic book called Mad, and this is issue #1, reprinted from it was originally in 1952 when this series came out, and this is really fascinating to see. I love the Golden Age EC comics, just like really great art in them. And this book is kind of notable for being one of the first, not humor books, but first satire or parody, where all of these stories are done as like a horror story or a sci-fi story, but it's silly and there's lots of jokes. A lot of jokes, kind of just about about the genre and tropes that you would expect to see in those types of stories. So this is kind of a first, like in comic book history. I mean, 1952. That's like over 70 years ago, and yeah, so that's really neat to see. I'm super excited to read this. I
And
read like the first two stories.
I do think it's unique as well because the facsimiles that have been coming out, or
Mm-hmm.
they might be obscure characters, but they're still under the Marvel or DC title.
Yeah, that is another a good point. A lot of the facsimiles that have been coming out are just like what's referred to as key issues for Marvel or DC, which is a book that's historically important, but usually really expensive on the secondary market because it's the first appearance of a character. Mad #1 is also super expensive. First of all, because it's 70 years old, but also it's hard to come across these types of books like these golden age comics because this book was being published at a time when people threw away their comics actively. Like it was disposable entertainment. I know it's painful to think about, but that's kids would spend their dime on a comic book and read it and then throw it away. They weren't really meant to be preserved, so it's just neat getting to see that piece of history. Okay, there's some trade paperbacks that are coming out tomorrow. That's worth noting. This book, I've been following this, A Man and His Cat. So I always make a mention whenever it comes out. I don't know, Abby, have you taken a look at this book yet?
Not yet, but it is on the list, especially because it involves cats.
Yes.
But
This is one of the most aggressively cute mangas I think I've ever read. It's really like overly sentimental. It's saccharine, you could even say, but it has kind of a funny, stupid-looking cat, and it makes me laugh. So I get a kick out of that.
Kind of looks like Magret.
A little bit, yeah. I have a fat cat, and she makes that face too. But yeah, so this is a funny comic. It's heartwarming. It's kind of just all of those things. Like it's fun. It's sentimental. You feel good, but then you also laugh because cats are stupid looking, and they do stupid things. A lot of it is told. I think what I like about it is a lot of it is told from the cat's perspective. So there's like this kind of drama going on between the human characters, but then it's the cat just kind of reacting to it as a cat would. So he doesn't really understand like who the people are.
That's amazing.
So it's pretty good. And this is volume 11. So this is another book that's been coming out for a long time, and it's still chugging away. All right, so let's see. I got one other trade paperback that's releasing tomorrow, and then we're gonna we'll take a look at some of the books that Abby read today. But also worth note is Petrolhead. I think I talked about this when the first couple of issues were releasing, and this is getting the collected edition here. Really, really cool looking book. I'm trying to recall what I said about the first issue. I like the art a lot. Like it just looks really good, and it's got robots, it's got cool cars, it's got a dystopian cyberpunk future. It's pretty much everything you could want in this kind of comic. But yeah, beautiful art, like really really good. I can't stop gushing about these colors. Like just looks so vibrant. Yeah.
I agree. I didn't read Petrolhead myself, but I did always admire the cover pages because they were always very bright. And that is something I do look forward in a comic, like the Batgirl issue. I know I mentioned this earlier today. Was just so bright and so colorful that they used colors that aren't used in a comic book because they were too bright, and that just matched the personalities of the Batgirls so well. So yeah, I do enjoy looking at colors for certain issues.
Yeah, it's just really striking cover. Cool book. Alrighty, let's see what else. What did you read today, Abby?
I read the Cult of the Lamb.
Cult of the Lamb. This has become a popular book just among the employees here. I'm told that this is a video game. I don't know anything about video games, but
I have not done that either. I know about the video game. So though now reading it, I'm very interested to see what the video game involves because it revolves around a lamb that's the last of its kind, and there is a cult that is trying to prevent a prophecy from being told that involves kind of the more meek animals.
Yeah.
So they behead the sheep. That's not a spoiler because it happens.
It happens like in the first couple of pages
And then-
as the lamb is led to slaughter.
Very much so. And the cute little eyes and everything.
Yeah,
Poor
there's-
innocent lamb. He doesn't.
Look at that right there. That is like an aggressively cute.
It's like the.
Oh yeah.
Like Puss in Boots, the moment when
Yes.
he holds his hat. So, but then the lamb is contacted by a different deity and said, "I'll let you live if you start a cult in my name." So then it gets more intense later on, and we find that there's some more deception that was involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love it as well because of the cutesy characters, because it looks so cute.
So this
but
book.
it
Oh, I'm
has
sorry, go
blood, so.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. This book looks like it has that thing where it's juxtaposing like a really kind of cute kids comic cartoon art
Yeah.
style with like a dark subject matter.
I know that we mentioned later on that it kind of looks like a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah, I was thinking more like a Cartoon Network thing.
Yeah, not Nickelodeon, but
yeah.
Cartoon Network.
But yeah, there's definitely like playing into that style, which is really common now. I don't think it it's people know it when they see it. But the difference between this and like an animated series is that like the colors in this comic are really nice, and a lot of these backgrounds, they just got like lush detail to them. It looks really good. The kind of thing that you wouldn't necessarily see in an animated show, because a lot of times animated shows have to be simplified so that it can be animated, So you get I really like the way this looks. This is good looking.
It's a good story as well. I'm interested to see what continues with it, because as all comics, it ends in a cliffhanger.
Of course.
And you get the mad, one-eyed, I don't know what it is. But that character I feel like will be more important later on. And then there's the bunny. They saved a bunny, and that's a knife. That's all I can say.
Well, this
But
looks good.
I really did enjoy it, though. It's probably, even though it looks cartoony, it's not for younger kids. There's way too much violence involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how Beneath the Trees is animals.
Yeah,
You do
yeah.
not give that to your kid.
That's a kind of a good comparison. Yeah, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, where it's an adult story, but it's definitely done in a like a artistic style that's traditionally for
It's
younger
like the
readers.
watercolor storybooks. I don't
Mhm.
know if the little kid storybooks where it is they use the cute animals and that
Yes.
watercolor, it makes you feel like you're in a tranquil scene
Yes.
back in your childhood with those animals, but no, it's not.
Yeah, Jesse says that it's the Cal Arts style, which I believe is what I said earlier.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, which is it's exactly what this is. Like, I mean, just like looking at this, you see it with like shows like Steven Universe or
thinking
Amazing
Gravity
World,
Falls.
Gravity Falls. Yep, Gravity Falls,
That's what it
Amazing
was
World
like.
of Gumball. Like,
That was in my head when I was reading it. Like, this reminds me of a certain show.
Yeah.
And I can't put my finger
there's
on
like
it.
a whole generation of animated series. They're all really good. I think that's the key. Is there's a lot of confusion where people will kind of write it off because it's like, well, they're all in the same style visually, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I think it works really well for animation, and there does kind of create this like ease of
Innocence, almost.
well, I'm thinking more of just like it eases the viewer in because like it
Yeah.
all just kind of becomes recognizable. Like you know what kind of show this is going to be based on that style, and
Mhm.
that's I think that's partially why it's become so popular because it's really just easy to watch and
Yeah.
you know probably easy for them to animate.
So I am curious now what the video game is. Well, after reading the comic, and I might have to play it.
Yeah. I don't know anything about it, but it sounds like it's probably like I don't normally play a lot of video games, but I do play some retro type games. And if it's that time, I saw somebody make mention of the game Binding of Isaac, which is a game that I really really enjoyed. So if it's like a roguelike type game, I'll probably enjoy it. Let's see, what else you got here?
At Profane. So
Profane.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Profane.
I'm
Yep.
not the best with names. Okay, so this book is a murder mystery. It starts out telling you that in the most generic way. I even read the first panel and I looked up to Aaron and I said, "Oh boy."
Yeah, you were immediately not into this, I think.
Because they open with this one paragraph where they
Mhm.
say my name, my height, my appearance, which is like I hate that in normal books, like
Uh-huh.
written paperbacks, because it just so better ways to do it. So it's an interesting concept. I won't give away the big spoiler, but this guy he's a detective. He
Mhm.
starts on a mystery, but then he ends up at a bar and he doesn't know why. And he's trying to backtrack. And he has this weird habit of pouring liquor and cigarettes on a detective novel to like scry almost.
Mick Spillane, that's classic detective. Yeah, Mickey Spillane. I'm blanking. I'm a bad writer guy, but I can't remember who the author was of that. But that's a character. Yeah.
Okay. In this story, it's actually I think a writer.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
That they took that name because it's I think giving hints to other detective novels.
Mhm.
And even in the next panel,
Yeah, right.
there's all written by the same person.
Mhm.
And he comes to some realizations that are interesting plot twist, but the writing is I kind of just want to say typical. It's a good like I want to kind of blast from the past almost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that, Abby, because this comic is written by Peter Milligan, who's actually I don't. He's a very good writer. I don't know if I'm ready to say that he's one of my favorite writers, but he has written one of my favorite X-Men books, if you can believe it. He's the writer on the X-Force / X-Static series from 20 years ago. with artist Mike Allred, and so he's done a lot of great stuff. So that's interesting that this was probably your first time reading anything by him.
It is.
But like all the stuff that you're kind of complaining about, I have to imagine it's actually done very much on
Intentional.
purpose. Yeah, it's
Oh,
very
totally.
intentional.
With the plot twist that there is,
Mm-hmm.
it is definitely written intentional.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
like a cheesy detective novel.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like it's purposely written like a cheesy
It
detective
is,
novel.
and that's the only hint I will give. I did not really enjoy it, but
Yeah,
now
well-
thinking back to it, hopefully though it might,
You know,
not become too typical.
It's funny because you were telling me about it a little bit, and you showed me that opening page, and honestly, my reaction was like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty generic and stupid." And this was before I realized who the writer was. And as soon as I saw Peter Milligan's name on the credits, my opinion was changed, and I was just like, "Oh, that's actually probably pretty interesting." Like putting it into that context. So now I'm actually curious to read this book for myself and see what I think. I might really like it.
You might go, oh, I see what she's getting, and then, oh, the plot twist.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
I do like a lot of classic like film noir and detective novels. Raymond Chandler's one. He's a name that I know. He's a writer.
It's a name you know.
It's a
and
name
one
that
I
I
don't
know. Yeah, exactly.
It does feel like about the paper dime backs. You get at the airport
Yep.
before you go on a plane.
Yep.
So it's definitely intentional.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to check this out. Let's see. I'm going to rush through a few things that are
Go ahead.
in my pull really quick. I don't want to dwell on them too much, but Bear Pirate Viking Queen #2 comes out. We were very excited when issue #1 came out. I didn't talk about it too much because I hadn't had a chance to read it. And just like then, I haven't had a chance to read issue 2, but I have read issue 1, and I like this book a fair amount, if for no other reason than the art is just beautiful. Like, it's really lush.
It reminds me a lot of the Haunt You to the End.
Haunt You to the End?
'Cause
Okay.
that was very watercolor based as well, and a lot of the backgrounds, it does seem very familiar.
Yeah, okay. I actually haven't read that one. This one is definitely giving me Bill Sienkiewicz vibes, who's kind of a legend in the comic book industry. Also, in a weird way, and this might not be like immediately identifiable, but I kind of am reminded of some of Sam Keith's stuff. That's for all you old guys out there that like all the old artists. Just with some of the figures, there's like some cartooning going on, and they're not presented realistically all the time, and so that just, I don't know, it just made me think of Sam Keith with some of the inking. But yeah, really, really cool book. Interesting, kind of I didn't really talk about the story last time because, like I said, I didn't read the first issue. But it's kind of a surreal, dreamlike story. So it's like this character's kind of it's first-person narration of this pirate, and they're kind of going on a quest. But it's all really weird because he keeps having these, I don't know if you'd call them hallucinations or just like visions, and it's all interwoven into the narrative, and just really cool book. I really, really like it.
Funny thing is, I'm a few weeks behind on reading comics. I just got to reading #1. It's on my pile to read.
But you haven't read it yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Sadly.
Well, you'll get to it. I highly recommend it.
I am excited to read it.
Another book in my pull that I'm super excited to read. Haven't had a chance to read it yet, though. Get Fury. This is just the dream team of Garth Ennis writing The Punisher and Nick Fury in a Vietnam setting. I love the premise to this, which is just it takes place during the Vietnam War, and Nick Fury is trapped behind enemy lines, and so the U.S. government sends Frank Castle to assassinate him before he can spill any state secrets. It's just so, I don't know, it's just so perfectly Garth Ennis. The artist here I'm not familiar with. Was it Jason Burrows? That's artist by Jason Burrows, but he's got like a little bit of a Steve Dillon vibe, which is appropriate because Steve Dillon did a lot of work with Garth Ennis, especially on The Punisher. I really like this book. It is, it's definitely earned its Max title. So like several decades ago, Marvel used to have a line of comics called Marvel Max, and it's when they experimented with putting out like R-rated comics. And one of the most popular comics in that line was Garth Ennis's Punisher, and some would argue that it's the best Punisher comics ever made.
What do you?
I would probably argue that. I don't know. I like a lot of Punisher comics, and I actually really do like his 90s series, which is more set in the Marvel Universe. Garth Ennis's Punisher, like, this is set in just like disconnected from superheroes entirely. This is just
Okay.
like Punisher in the real world type of
I was
thing.
about to roast Frank Castle for being very old.
Yeah, well, he is very old, but yeah, like originally he was a Vietnam vet. It's all very 80s, and he is supposed to be really old. Like he's supposed to be a Vietnam vet.
Which is interesting because the Frank Castle portrayed in TV shows and movies is pretty young.
Yeah,
And
because it's always
also-
the young version.
Yeah,
of him.
and they had him be in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Right. Yeah, they have to update
Vietnam.
it. Sadly, there's always some new war that you can just plug into the origin.
That makes sense.
But anyway, this is a cool comic. This is definitely for a very specific type of reader. If you're a guy that likes war comics, if you like Garth Ennis, I will say one thing. Like, so Garth Ennis, Abby, if you don't know, he wrote the series Preacher, and he writes The Boys, or he wrote The Boys.
Oh,
the
I didn't
popular
know that,
TV
Fred.
show. Yeah, you know The Boys. And so The Boys is really grotesque, and it is a very mean-spirited satire of superhero comics. I enjoy it in that respect, because it's very mean-spirited, and it is just making fun of superheroes. But Garth Ennis also has, he's really good at writing war comics. He's got a whole slew of war comics that he writes. And he just really, I think he just has a lot of fun writing characters like the Punisher and Nick Fury, and it feels less like satirical and just more of like an embracing of the genre. Like he just embraces over the top war action stuff. So I think Get Fury is kind of a return to form for Garth Ennis. Like it just, he's back in the saddle. Like he hasn't lost a step. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like The Boys because it's just too much. It's too over the top. It's too ridiculous. It's too mean spirited. Like it's just too much. And if you've seen the TV show, you probably have a good idea of what the comics are like.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I really like Get Fury. I'm like it's just like reading old comic books that I used to love 20 years ago, and I'm getting that feeling now when I read it. So hooray! I just saw this comment on here. Jessie says she couldn't get into Bear Pirate Viking Queen. Well, that's too bad. Maybe the second issue will change your mind. One final book just in my pull before we get on to some meatier stuff. Shazam. I'm still reading this. I like that. This is a cool cover. I like this because like they're playing with the nature of the Captain, because they can't call him Captain Marvel anymore. He's just the Captain in this. He was just Shazam. It's this whole thing. It bothers me so much, like that. It's like DC really dropped the ball with, because the character's name was Captain Marvel, and then they weren't doing anything with the character because it's a long history. I explained it to Celeste on a previous episode. It took forever, but long story short, DC bought the character after the company that was originally putting out Fawcett Comics went out of business because DC sued them out of business. And so DC owned the character, and then they didn't do anything with it. So Marvel was like, well, we're going to publish our own Captain Marvel comic because there wasn't another Captain Marvel on the stands. And then DC wants to bring the character back, but there's already a comic out now in publication called Captain Marvel, so they have to change the name to Shazam.
But that's his name.
But
that's the trigger word.
That's the trigger word, right? So it's like it doesn't make sense that he would say his own name.
Hero, help me. What's your
Yeah.
name? Oh, I'm Shazam. Oh no, I'm a boy now.
Exactly. And they, admittedly, they kind of play with that every now and then, like in the story. But I am enjoying this comic. I started reading it with when this series first started because Mark Waid was writing it and Dan Moore was doing the art. And it just
We love Dan Moore.
they're a really good creative team. This cover is a Dan Moore cover. But yeah, it's. I think this is the third issue with the new writer.
I think the last one I read was the beginning of the Captain kind of rebelling Billy
Yes.
Batson.
Yes, and that's what this story is, which I'm enjoying because again, talking about some deep Captain Marvel lore, the original version of the character, they were like two different characters. Like Billy would say the magic word Shazam, and then Captain Marvel would appear, and he's just Captain Marvel, the superhero. And then at a certain point, they kind of updated. DC wanted to re-envision envision the character, and that's when it became the more modern version where Billy is still Billy, just with the adult body of a superhero, and it's but like with a child's mind, which admittedly is like an interesting take for the character. Like it's different than an average superhero.
I know this story started off with a bang with dinosaurs crashing.
Yes,
So
I like.
hopefully it maintains the silliness. I know that when it first started out, we were talking about how this was like the old comics. It's
Yep.
silly because it's a kid and
Yep.
everything. So
That's what I liked about it, and Mark Waid is a writer who definitely embraces the Silver Age of comics, so I appreciated that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, but I don't have a whole lot else to say about it. Okay, I got one book that I'm going to talk a lot about, but we're not going to do it right now. We're saving it for a little bit later. What else do you have here, Abby, that you want to talk
Let's do
about?
this one.
Okay, what is this?
Falling in Love on the Path to Hell.
Ooh, that's a good title.
And very much like a Star Wars poster, honestly.
Yeah.
When I first saw it at the newsletter, when they kind of released a few covers with it, I really thought it was a Star Wars book because her katana glows.
There's a glowing sword. You got the Darth Vader samurai helmet in the background there. Space Western Han Solo-esque guy.
I really did, but no, it's just a normal katana. So the premise of this is it follows two main characters, as you can see on the cover. A person from the middle, from the Wild West, and it starts out with a gang fight. He gets shot, and then he goes to a beach on the edge of California to die. And so that's why he is in this position. And then the other story follows a samurai. I think it says during 1870-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 18. There's a date somewhere.
There's a
there.
date.
But it follows this main character here, where she is a samurai during this time period where they have to return their swords. They have to give them up because of something that happened in history. And she didn't want to, so she killed everyone. And she also got shot, or she got slashed later on. She also went to a beach to die. And that's the premise of this, where they both are dying on a beach, and they both see a mysterious island, and then they wake up there fully healed, and it's not like a normal.
That's cool.
And there's a lot of blood, a lot of decapitation.
Yeah.
But.
So you're saying this book isn't for kids, is what you're saying?
Probably not. Don't get them any ideas.
Lots of heads flying. I like it.
Oh, she carries it around later on.
Oh, neat.
But it ends with them being on this island, and it's not like any island on Earth.
Okay.
So that's
There's like a
very
supernatural afterlife kind of a thing.
So they end up both on this beach, and they meet.
Okay.
And she does like the normal heroine meeting of reaction, where she puts a knife to his neck.
Naturally, yeah.
So I really did enjoy it. For one, the art style is one of my favorites, where it's a lot of watercolor. I love that in comics. It's so cool.
The art is really good. I like the look of it. And they're definitely, like, just going back to this cover, they're definitely evoking like a Star Wars feel to this, just the grand adventure, and I mean, even just samurai and westerns, like that's two of the main ingredients in Star Wars.
Agreed. The white border around it.
Yeah.
I would recommend it if you see it on the shelf, especially if you are not opposed to having an introduction comic, because this is what it is. It is an introduction.
Issue.
It is not going to be smack dab action packed, well, kind of. But storyline, it's just getting started, and that's
Very
what
nice.
I can say about it. It was a good read.
Yeah.
One of my favorites out of the new comics this week.
Cool. I have one more book. I have a lot of books. There was a lot of new number ones. This is probably the book I was most excited to talk about, or to read, I should say, is Attaboy by Tony McMillan. I don't know Tony, but I follow him on Facebook, and we're in kind of some of the similar comic book groups in social media, so we will occasionally... I know that we like a lot of the same stuff. So when I saw that his book was getting published, I was very excited for him. I like his art a lot, and this is such a... I'm kind of curious. I'm almost really curious for you to read this book, Abby, because I want like a complete opposite perspective from me. Because this book feels like it's kind of tailor-made for me. I'm a middle-aged dude who played video games in the 80s and 90s, and might be dealing with some stuff, but that's all kind of present in this book. Very cool cover here. So first of all, there's like a conceptual thing going on where it's sort of presented like it's a training manual for a video game. There's a lot of, I like the design, like you just see like this fake game box, and the narrator is telling the story of this video game that he remembers playing as a kid, but nobody else remembers, and it's kind of sets up for this really intensely personal story, just of, so you know, there's Abby, there's a metaphor going on in this story about the video game character is trying to figure out what the purpose of his game is, and that's kind of a metaphor for figuring out the purpose of your life, you know. And there's some other stuff going on with family drama. There's a lot. He's drawing a lot from video games like Mega Man. I was immediately just like hit with this wave of nostalgia reading this book, just like remembering all of the time I spent playing Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo. Very, very cool book. I like this a lot. There's a little bit of like Metroid in here. So there's a whole thing with the story is basically Attaboy is the main character in this game, and he's trying to figure out, like, he's trying to go through the game, and he's trying to figure out like how do you play the game, how do you beat it, and like that's like an interesting thing about that is, like, again, playing old Nintendo games. This was before the internet and before you could just like pull up a YouTube video and have some Indian guy give you a tutorial on like exactly what to do, and you would have to read the instruction manuals or just play the game and figure it out as you go along. And again, that's kind of a metaphor in the story, is you just kind of keep doing it and figuring it out as you go along. I like this book a lot. We've got it on the shelf. I highly recommend you check it out. Like really, really frenetic, colorful art. Like, I really like the colors in it. Just really, really, really good stuff. But yes, as I was saying, it definitely feels like it's something that is tailor made for somebody like me. And I don't know if you're going to have the immediate, just like nostalgia wave from reading it that I do.
I'm interested. The art is very colorful, which
Yeah,
is something
yeah.
I do enjoy.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It also has like kind of a surreal aspect to it, which again I think plays into the video game setting, because a lot of video games, like when you have they're like a genre or a medium that's not narrative focused or linear. I think there's a unique type of storytelling that comes out of that. Like, so like playing a video game, the focus of the game is the action that the player is taking, but then there's a story that's kind of built around that, and so it just feels different from reading a book or a narrative. Same thing with like if you listen to like bands or operas, or like a rock opera, or just even
Yeah.
any type of, like, there's a story in there, but it's around the music, and so it has just like a different quality. And I kind of get that from Attaboy, where it feels very appropriate, where like it feels like a video game, but there's still a narrative to follow, but it just has that kind of like surreal, dreamlike quality to it. It's really, really good. I enjoyed it. So Tony, great job. I know a lot of people are really digging on your book, and I'm excited to read it. It's really cool. All right, I got a couple of other like new number ones that are coming out this week. Actually, I have four more here. I'm going to talk about one that I'm really excited about, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff that Abby has. Scarlet. Now, you guys, everybody that's been following this stream, you know, all three of you know that I love the G.I. Joe comics currently, the Energon Universe stuff. So this is the new series, the Duke series, and the Destro series I'm sorry, not the Destro series, the Cobra Commander series has finished, and now we're starting the second wave with Scarlet and Destro. And this series is written by Kelly Thompson, who is, I believe she's writing the Brave and the Bold comic that I've enjoyed. And yeah, this comic is just keeping it rolling. Like the Duke series was kind of about the formation of GI Joe and Duke figuring out like what's going on. And this Scarlet series, I don't want to spoil too much about it, but it looks like, I mean, if you're a GI Joe fan, you know what this symbol means, and so that's kind of where this story is going. It's establishing that corner of the GI Joe universe, which since I know you don't know, Abby, it's ninjas.
I know G.I. Joe.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Your dad is like
Yeah.
Mr. G.I. Joe. Oh, here I
Loves
am.
it.
Here I am talking down to you, and
Guess what?
you
I
probably know
watched-
as much about G.I. Joe as I do.
No.
Okay, good.
I watched a lot of the series that came out in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
And also I play the G.I. Joe action figures, so
Whoa.
take that.
Who's your favorite G.I. Joe?
Scarlet.
She's a good one to have as a favorite.
Baroness, all the women.
Baroness is good. So, legitimately, one of my favorite G.I. Joes shows up in this series. Although she's not in the costume of her original toy, it's Jinx. She was one of the ninja characters. She was featured in the animated movie series, and I had her toy. She wore like an all red jumpsuit with a red mask. So,
That's vaguely familiar.
I mean, it's a very striking visual just because it's colorful, and most of the other characters, like Snake Eyes, is all black, Storm Shadow's all white, and her thing was that she was all red, and she was just an all red lady ninja, and she kicked butt. And yeah, she's really cool. She's featured very heavily. Like Scarlet's the main character, but the story is kind of centered around Jinx. So I was very very cool to see that. So yeah, I'm really digging it. All right, what do you got? What else do you got here? This is a new number one.
Yes, another new number one. As some people might know or not, I read mostly DC and indies.
Mhm.
So Beyond the Pale is set place in Vietnam, which is funny. It's like the second
Yeah,
Vietnam book that came out this week.
Yeah.
And it is a reporter who got permission to go to Vietnam with a battalion to investigate the number of African American soldiers that were disappearing from base.
Okay.
So the base they're going to is called Tartarus, I think, and it is apparently reportedly the most disappearances are happening at the base, not deaths in battle, but disappearances for unknown causes. So there's some mystical aspects in it later on in the storyline. That is why I picked it up, because I read a lot of the spooky books that are here. I read a lot. So.
Yeah, Tartarus. I had to double check it. I can't remember exactly. I think Tartarus was the name, like maybe Greek or Latin. It was some name for like a purgatory type place.
Yeah, it's Greek. Greek
it's
mythology.
Greek. Oh, okay, right on.
There's like the underworld, and then Tartarus is like where the worst of the worst went. That's where the Titans went after the gods killed them, everything. So yeah, it's not death, but it's worse than death.
Oh, worse than death. Well, that sounds like Vietnam for a lot of people.
Very much so.
Oh, yeah. So did you like this? Did you like the issue?
I'm indifferent about it. Okay. I liked the storyline. I'm interested to see where it goes, but it's not something like, oh, I'm gonna rave about this to everyone.
Sometimes it can be hard to tell based off of a first issue.
That's why I'm like, I'll give it a chance.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that it is about Vietnam and also putting attention on the African American soldiers during that time.
Yes.
Because that happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Vietnam was... 50s was the Korean War.
Okay.
Vietnam was the late 60s through the 70s. Yeah.
Thought so. I knew it was through the groovy age.
The groovy. That's right. That's correct.
So I know that.
Dang hippies.
Still, there was a lot of discourse with different colored skin.
Well, it was because it was also happening after the Civil Rights Movement.
Yes.
And so I don't know for certain, but I think Vietnam was maybe the first war that was fully integrated with its soldiers.
That would make a lot of sense.
Which, yeah, so that wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Because it clearly seems like that's kind of what the story is about, or at least playing with, racial tension.
It was also very interesting because a lot of the soldiers in there was perplexed why there was a female at base. And there's some interesting words thrown around.
Oh, I'll bet.
That was something also I was a little put off by, but I know that was the times and that was the situation.
Yeah.
There was not women soldiers during Vietnam. And I do love that, for one, there is a camera on the cover. I am an amateur photographer.
Oh, are you?
I am. I shot a fellow coworker's wedding.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so...
yeah, this is a cool cover. I like this. The camera and the reflection of the skull.
It also shows that there is something beyond understanding for the book at the moment. Kind of like the other one, it's a good first issue.
Yeah.
So, I loved the Road to Hell and the other one I showed much better. Just because it was just a lot of action-packed right in the beginning and a lot of storyline you get instead of taking the long route and introducing everything first. So no, it was still good. I'm still interested in following the storyline to see what's happening it's not something that I am like, oh, it's not Beneath the Trees. I know that's gonna be like the setting.
That's like the gold standard for comparing things.
Yeah,
Beneath
it's
the
just
Trees where nobody
it's not
sees.
Beneath the Trees.
I mean, it's a good book.
It is. It's a good read, and especially since it is involving wartime.
Yeah. Let's see. So I have a few other things that I'm less excited about, but I want to talk about them just because they're coming out tomorrow and people are probably interested in them. So the Ultimates #1 comes out tomorrow. Now, if you're following the new Ultimate Universe, I figure at this point you've already made up your mind whether you're gonna like go all in or not. I've been very vocal about my general dissatisfaction with it, and
You couldn't tell.
it has nothing to do with the quality of the books. I just can't get past the premise. Like it just is too much for me. But that all being said, I thought this was a pretty good issue. Just it felt like reading an Ultimates book. I think that's the best thing I can say about it. So if you liked the old Ultimate Universe comics, like I think that Hickman, not everybody involved in the new books, but Hickman especially, and I forgot his name, the guy that's writing Black Panther, and then also
Peach Momoko, who's writing the
Peach Momoko is the one that I say doesn't feel like it's in line with the rest of the Ultimate Universe books.
It is definitely different.
It's different, yeah. Whereas this one was written by Denise Camp and art by Juan Frigeri, I think. This just like feels very much this. It just got the tone. It's got the storytelling, like pacing, and some of the high concept stuff that's going on. It's you know what I did actually enjoy reading this comic, which I really didn't. I'm only talking about it because I didn't expect to, because I was prepared. I stopped reading Ultimate Spider-Man. I stopped reading Ultimate X-Men. I just was prepared to just not follow the Ultimate Universe, and it definitely feels like you have to follow all the books. Like you can't just read a comic and enjoy it. But I did enjoy this as a new #1, and I like the setup. So again, the overall premise of it is that the Maker is this villain, and he remade the Ultimate Universe, and then he tried to take out all the heroes, and like he stopped them from before they became superheroes. So he like made it so that they essentially didn't exist, and so he could rule the planet. And so now it's like the world is kind of unrecognizable. And long story short, he's been stopped, but he's in like a temporary like fortress there where he sealed himself off, and he's going to come back in 18 months. And so they have the Avengers, Iron Lad, and Doctor Doom, who is Reed Richards. They have 18 months to like put together a team so they can stop him when he comes back out. And so, as I understand it, that's how they're going to do like this series, is essentially a countdown to that event. So like each issue is going to be 1 month, and I think it's going to feature like them trying to get a different hero. So I kind of like that as a setup for your ongoing series of like each issue is essentially like a new origin for a new character that you're putting together for your team, and then you can over time build it up to this big event that you're going to do in like a year, 2 years. So that's neat. That's really neat. I don't know if I'm going to keep following it. I don't know. I'm sorry I'm being all wishy-washy about this. It was better than I expected, but also I just feel like I'm not invested in the whole Ultimate Universe, so why bother, kind of a thing.
I think the only Ultimates I'm reading is Ultimate X-Men.
Ultimate X-Men. And that's the one that feels the most detached from all of this. So I feel like
I picked. I went Eeny, Miny, Mo, and I picked that one.
But if there was one you were going to read and not read all the other ones, I feel like that's the one where you could just read Ultimate X-Men and you don't have to care about the rest of this stuff.
Because I agree with you, it does feel very detached from the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it feels very much like it's just a Peach Momoko story. Like she just wanted to tell an X-Men story, and somebody at Marvel was like, "Yeah, sure, just do it. Oh, we'll put the Ultimate logo on there just to sell a few more, maybe, or I don't know. Maybe it'll integrate further into the Ultimate Universe in the future. I don't know, but yeah." Okay, I'm going to talk about 2 more books really quick, and then we're going to end with a book that I really like, because I don't want to end on a sour note. So also coming out tomorrow, 2 big, it's kind of ironic that these books are both coming out. I'm just going to go ahead and show them both at the same time. We have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha #1, and then we have Uncanny X-Men 35, but also 700.
Confusing.
It's don't get me started on comic book numbering, but essentially, what's interesting about both of these books is that they are the in between issues. That they represent the end of one years long saga era, if you will.
Fall and rise of X-Men.
Yeah, but also for the Ninja Turtles, a few months ago, Ninja Turtles reached issue number 150 of its then current series, and then it finished, and they canceled it, and next month they're going to reboot it with a new series, with new creators, new number ones, and so that's both of these books kind of represent like an in-between. This is an epilogue for the Krakoa era, as it's referred to, but then also setting up what you can expect for the next like phase of X-Men storytelling. And Ninja Turtles, kind of the same thing. It's like a little preview story of what to expect from Jason Aaron's new Ninja Turtles series, and then also a preview for a different series they're putting out called what did they call it? Mutant Nation, perhaps. Yeah, there we go. Mutant Nation #1 will be coming out later. So just to briefly talk about them with the Ninja Turtles, I loved this first story by Jason Aaron and art by Chris Burnham. I like Chris Burnham a lot. Abby, you'll recognize Chris Burnham. He's the guy who drew the Unstoppable Doom Patrol from the other year.
Yeah, my favorite.
Yeah. We both loved Doom Patrol.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And we were very excited when they said, "Oh wait, we're not doing 6, we're doing 7."
Yeah, we
then
squeezed an extra issue out.
Then they are saying they're going to do it again, hopefully.
I hope so.
When DC.
When? But anyway, in the meantime, Chris Burnham drew this Ninja Turtle story, and it's like maybe 10 pages. I don't know. It's pretty short, but I liked it a lot. The setup is kind of interesting, where you have these like rich corporate spineless yuppies that go to, they go to this. I forget what they call it, like going on safari, and they have all these like mutant characters locked up, and they just let the people kill them, essentially. And so the mutant that this guy's going to kill is Donatello. That's the revelation. And through the narration, Donatello's explaining that he has like some form of amnesia. He doesn't remember who he is, but he's trapped in this place. And it's just a quick, like, short little action story. Kind of sets up like an interesting setting of the new world that the Ninja Turtles are going to be occupying. I really liked it. The next story I did not like as much. Felt like, so that I have to assume this is a continuation of the previous Ninja Turtle series or some kind of spin-off. It feels like there's a lot of backstory built into this. Like even just like the first 2 pages are just like explaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters, like who they are and what they've been doing up until this point. So if you've been reading the old Ninja Turtle series, because this is written by the writer of the old series, Tom Waltz, I believe. It's in here, Tom Waltz. And so this is probably a continuation of the stuff that he was doing in Ninja Turtles. It's a neat setup, but I found it very difficult to get into because, again, it felt like I was kind of coming into this like decades-long story, and it just feels like it's continuing, and the Turtles aren't in it. Like, you know, it's cool that there's all these other characters, but I wanted to read about the Ninja Turtles, you know. So I would say it's definitely worth getting this just for the preview, the Jason Aaron and Chris Burnham story, because I don't believe, so I'm guessing that, so Chris Burnham is illustrating the Donatello series, or the Donatello issue that's coming out in October. So I don't know if this is just like a preview of that issue, or if this is like a preview story that's separate from that comic. I don't know. But I enjoyed it. So it's got me hyped for Jason Aaron's Ninja Turtles. The other book here that I also showed, X-Men, also this weird epilogue story. I don't know what this comic even is. I've not been a big fan of the Krakoa era, as anybody's heard me complain about it knows. But even as, like, it kind of bothers me because this is issue, they're using the anniversary numbering. This is issue 700. They're making a big deal out of it. And it's also, I think, just completely impenetrable to new readers. Like, if you were just like, oh, what's going on with the X-Men right now? maybe I'll check it out. Issue number 700. It's completely impenetrable. I've been following it off and on, and I have no idea what's happening in this story.
I was reading the Rise and Fall issues.
Oh, okay.
And
So you're probably more familiar with what was leading into this
oh
than I
no,
am.
I still don't understand. They're on like issue 5.
Uh-huh.
I still don't get it.
No, that was it. I think the issue 5 was the
Yeah.
final issue, and
Of
then
both of them.
and then this.
I still didn't reading notes. I still didn't understand. I was like, who are all these characters?
Yeah, there's
I have
so
no
much.
idea. And also, why does Magneto look so young?
So that kind of bothered me too. Where was that page?
Oh,
That's Professor X. But yeah, there's like a moment where the Professor X and Magneto are having a scene, and I was
scene.
a scene. they're making a scene. But anyway, yeah, you're right. I did notice that, like,
I don't know where that was. It was just briefly I saw it. He was like lounging on the couch.
yeah, it looked a little weird. Anyway, there's some other short stories in here. There was a Nightcrawler story by Chris Claremont. That's what I was looking for. Here we are. Chris Claremont, he's the guy when it comes to the X-Men. He's the one who set the X-Men on the path that they're on today. What does that comment say? They do tend to make a scene every time they meet. Oh, that is true. I mean, to be fair, they do. That's kind of their whole thing. But yeah, again, like this was probably the only thing I wanted to read because Nightcrawler is one of my favorite X-Men characters, and it is just perpetual. I'm setting myself up for perpetual disappointment. It is just a darn shame what they've done with Nightcrawler's continuity. And before anybody jumps down my throat, I don't have a problem with the recent revelation that Mystique is Nightcrawler's dad. She's a shape changer. And so she's really his dad, not his mom.
Huh.
I think that's fine. That was an idea that was floated a long time ago. What I don't like is that they have to try and make that fit with like every other version of the origin that they've told up until this point, instead of just saying, oh no, that other stuff, that was a lie. You know, they have to still, like, everything still has to be in continuity. And it just bothers me because we're keeping all the bad stories that nobody likes, but we have to keep it in, like, because it's official. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to read the X-Men #1. That feels like it's more of like an actual jumping on point. But I don't think this 700 did a good job of like getting anybody excited for the new era. All it did was provide an awkward epilogue to the previous era that the people that like that era are disappointed that it's ending. And the people that didn't like it, they're not going to get anything out of this. So I'm not really sure who this book was for. Okay, that's enough of me being an old sourpuss. Let's talk about one really, 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 really great comic book. We're talking about, of course, Boy Wonder by Junie Ba. Now, Abby,
Yes.
I don't think you're qualified to talk about this comic book.
When I mentioned the Bear Queen thing, it's on top of Bear Queen.
Okay.
Of like I'm on that week where it all came out. So no, I do not know too much about Boy Wonder.
You haven't read issue 1 yet.
It's on the list.
I loved issue 1. Now let's just briefly like set some context here. Boy Wonder. This is about Damian,
My
who
favorite.
is what number Robin is he? Like
He's 5th.
5. There's been 5 Robins.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's Dick.
Mhm.
Then there's Jason,
Jason,
Tim,
Tim.
Stephanie, and then
Stephanie,
Damian.
spoiler, that's the one that everybody always forgets. But yeah,
Sad.
she's Robin number 4. Yeah, so I have like mixed feelings about Damian because I felt like it was a kind of a bold move to just straight up give Batman a biological son.
But also like a murder son as
But
well.
yeah, but it kind of worked in context. I guess that's what I'm getting at is I can see many ways that this could have gone horribly wrong. But I think DC actually kind of pulled it off fairly well.
And also, it's kind of interesting because giving a Robin that has no moral code, well,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, who came from the League of Assassins, also shows that Batman's way can change someone. Which
Yes.
is also something.
And that's
like,
kind of the
that's who he
the
was.
story, yeah.
Was Batman's ideals and Batman's family
Mhm.
can change someone. And I know that was a very interesting plot that they did, and I think they did it correctly by doing that.
Yeah. I really like this Boy Wonder comic a lot. It's told like a kind of a fairy tale style. You would know this if you had read issue 1.
Hey.
But I also like that each issue is kind of it's about Damian interacting with a different Robin. So issue 1 was Dick Grayson, Nightwing,
And Barbara, I think.
yeah, and a little bit of Batgirl. And issue 2 now is Red Hood, who's the Jason Todd Batman, or I mean the Jason Todd Robin, who was famously murdered by the Joker. So he's the edgy Robin. He's the one.
The emo.
He's the emo Robin who's not afraid to do what it takes to put criminals down.
Which I also love that they're not doing the Robin of right now. They're doing the Robin when he just came to Gotham. Like,
Yeah.
he just, I think this is after his father died and came back, that whole saga.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love that this is them showing him learning actually from the Robin previously. Even though some of them had a very love-hate relationship. Tim,
Yeah, it's a good story. Like, it's got heart. I think it's what a lot of people like. I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. I think it's a lot of people make fun of Robin as part of the Batman mythos because a lot of people think you don't need Robin. Like, you just need Batman being Batman.
excuse me, you're wrong.
I agree, and I think that this book does a really good job of kind of explaining the importance of the Robins in the Bat family, and it is an interesting dynamic for a superhero comic to have just kind of this family of. I mean, it's a little bit of the X-Men story, honestly, like found family of just like people who kind of come together and can find a family where they didn't have it prior.
I love that trope of found family and family fluff. I might be edgy and dark exterior, but that's the stuff that warms my heart.
Yeah.
So like the Wayne Family Adventures, which also shows like what they are behind the mask, is also I very much enjoy because it is talking about the found family.
Yeah,
trope.
yeah. But yeah, so this is actually kind of, I mean, it's not really a Batman book, it's a Robin book, but this is one of my favorite Batman-related comics that has been coming out in recent years. It's just really good. The art is great. The story is, again, I was never really somebody who was that interested in Robin, I'll be honest. I get it. I liked Robin, but I didn't read comics for Robin, and I never in a million years had a favorite Robin. I know there's a lot of people that have a favorite Robin. Abby, your favorite is Damian.
My second favorite is probably either Dick Grayson or Jason Todd.
I mean, I'd probably have to go with Dick just because he's the first, and he's, in my mind, he's the real Robin out of all of them. So there's that. But I think Damian is making a good case for becoming the real Robin in a lot of people's minds. And it's kind of interesting thinking about like DC continuity in a broad scheme. I do sort of feel like Damian is forever going to be Robin, like from here on out.
Like he won't evolve.
Like he won't evolve the way
Robin or-
Nightwing. Like I think that's like they cracked the formula and like they'll settle on this. You have all the past Robins. This is what where the Batman story is now. You have all the past Robins. One grew up to be a really, really great superhero. Another one is like an anti-hero who's like suffering all this trauma from his time in Robin. I don't even know what Tim's doing. Is he even doing anything?
Feel like
Faded into
don't
obscurity?
Fight, like don't fight me on this, but not other people. Don't don't be mad at me.
I'll fight you,
I feel
Abby.
like Tim is going to be the next Batman. Like that
Okay.
is his role, kind of.
Okay.
Because he's more of the detective side of Batman.
Okay.
And you could argue that every Robin is a different side of Batman.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's kind of what like his role is becoming the next Batman.
Okay.
Even though Damian will say to high heaven it's gonna be him.
That's gotta be him. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
But I do think that like Damian is set up to kind of be forever Robin because now you have the father-son dynamic with Batman and Robin, and that's just like too perfect to mess up. I don't think they're gonna bring in a sixth Robin, and now Damian's gonna have to deal with his giving up the title or like his kid brother, like that. Like I think Damian will forever be the kid brother who's trying to make a name for himself as Robin among all these other Robins who did it first.
So there was a storyline where like the Robin name, everyone was fighting in the Robin name.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone became Robin, and I think that's where Duke Thomas showed up, and that where he then became Signal, which is kind of Robin.
You're getting into lore that I am completely unfamiliar with.
I know vaguely this.
Well,
Vaguely.
anyway, all of this is to say, Boy Wonder, excellent. Made me appreciate Robin in a whole new way. Even Damian made me appreciate Damian. I really like him in this comic. So and also another thing, just pointing out I love comics that are like writer artist driven, like a singular vision. And Juni Ba is just killing it with this, like the style of it. It looks really good. Like you can tell it's a story he wants to tell, and I think he found a really good angle to tell an interesting story that involves all of the Robins. It's just quality. Like I haven't actually. I haven't read. I only read about half this issue, so I can't say it's the best issue of the week for sure because I haven't read the whole thing. But it's definitely a contender for best issue of the week.
No, I think Cult of the Lamb with all of the slaughtering is awesome.
That one's a contender. So much so that I think everybody that works here was like, "Oh, I want a copy of that. I want a copy of that." So I think it's going to be a popular book. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for our stream today. Thanks for tuning in, checking it out. I hope you saw some comics that you like. Come on down to Fantasy Books and Games. Buy some books. If you can't get them from us, get them from somewhere, please, because I just want people reading comics. Yeah, I think that about does it. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Comics, yeah.